Hi, my name is Koku with blackfilm.com, and I'm here with Breanna Hogan. She is the creator of À La Carte, which is streaming right now on ALLBLK TV. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. So excited.
I'm very excited to speak to you for a number of reasons. We'll get into it. I spoke with some of the cast members on your show. I spoke with Kendall, Jesse Wu, Pauline Dyer, and Jenna Nolan. They are stars of your hit series, but I really also want to talk about you and how we got here. So I understand you're originally from Chicago.
Yes. Ooh,
Yes.
ooh.
What side?
South side.
South side. You know, I was born in Chicago, Cook County Hospital.
Hey.
I am originally from the south suburbs.
Okay. What part? Which one?
Country Club Hills, Illinois.
Oh, okay. So I grew up in Dalton, but I
Oh,
went to school and I went to school in the city, but my brother went to school. My older brother went to school in like Dalton. We went Country Club Hills is like our go-to movie theater.
Yep. So yeah, you know my hometown.
Yes.
So yes, it's been quite some time since I've lived there, but that is my childhood. Of course, I ended up moving, but that's another story. But this is about you. So, you started out, obviously you went to Howard University. I was going to go there, but you're showing us you went there.
We're already here.
So talk to us about Howard University, which, a lot of people will say is the real HU.
It is the real HU, and don't let anyone tell you any differently. I mean, I have love for all my HBCUs in general, but like Howard is
so
the
Howard, between the Howard and Hampton, that's it. The HU is Howard.
it's Howard.
Well, no, I went to the AUC, so I always had love for Howard. I was never one of those kind of people that was like, nah, your school, blah blah. So
Yeah,
I got a lot of fam out in Howard, FAMU specifically. Of course, Clark, Morehouse, Spelman, even people that have went to Morris Brown, like everybody, like it's all there, it's all love.
Yeah, it's all love. Like amongst ourselves, we might bicker about who's who, but
it's
publicly,
fun.
if anyone else try to come at us, we like, no, it's HBCU love all day.
Absolutely. So, did you go to school for PR? Was that your original path?
I did go to school for PR.
Really?
My major was communications, actually. Then I minored in PR.
Mm-hmm.
But I originally thought I was going to go to law school.
What is with law school and all these creatives? What kind of law were you looking to study?
So what I found out, and this is how I know I was really meant to be a creator, it was really the drama of SVU that made me think I wanted to be a lawyer, and like the smart legal dramas that I like to watch, like The Good Wife and The Good Fight. Like it was the theatrics of it all that made me feel like I wanted to be a lawyer. But it wasn't until the summer after my freshman year, I interned at a law firm. It was the most boring, most mundane thing I've ever experienced. And I'm like, oh no. I need something creative. This isn't it. Luckily, my major was already communication, so all I had to do was kind of like do some research and figure out how to pivot. But yes, I had to get out of the legal game quick.
I mean, PR is really all about creating and maintaining relationships. It's very difficult work, and I try to explain that to people. And this is on the outside looking in. I mean, I literally field out probably hundreds of emails a day, but there are those people like yourself, Bree, that I know your name because you're constantly keeping us in the loop with what you're doing. So I really don't think people understand the extent to which a PR professional has to grind and just create these relationships. And it's not even like you're just talking to me. You've got your hundreds of contacts. So it's amazing when I watch y'all work, is what I'm saying.
Yes. And even beyond that, like you said, relationships. Because I know a lot of people that like have access to emails and a media list and call themselves a publicist.
Yeah.
But like I remember like when I was coming up, even as an assistant, like my boss at the time really pressed upon me to manage your relationships and like really, stay in touch with people, get to know people, and just like build an actual relationship. So that's the part that takes like the real work and being able to keep up with people and just have that eye and be like, oh, so and so would be interested in this specifically. And then like there's a lot of moving around. So on your end, you guys move around sometimes. We move around sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's really like keeping up with people and maintaining and trying as best you can to have genuine, authentic relationships.
Yeah, that's important because I can always tell when someone's reaching out to me and it's kind of a little bit form letter, like, hey, here's the project, that's it. But again, someone like yourself, you're very specific, and like you said, you kind of know what may match this particular personality. So I'm just like, it's really nice to know that someone's actually paying attention to what you do, and knowing
Yeah.
that maybe this is the right fit, maybe something else isn't a right fit. But it's always nice to know that someone is just really on top of their job. But I want to talk about something else too. So in PR, you started out working on the Milk and Honey series.
Yes.
Okay, because I see you shot that out. And you know what's so funny about that is I'm very familiar with Jeanette
Oh,
on Milk and
really?
Honey. Absolutely. And one of my best friends is Rob, and he was Isaac on Milk and Honey. So it's funny that that would be your beginning, because I know these people. I know
Full,
Jeanette and Rob.
full circle.
Yeah, that's amazing. So when you bring that up, because it was a while ago, but you were able to work with so many different people. I mean, that show was a vehicle for a lot of people to even, like, at the time may have been unknown or didn't have that kind of work. And you helping them to push and promote that show did get them a lot of placements. So it's nice to know that you also were a part of that. It was a while ago, but it's nice to see that
Yeah.
your name is in it.
Definitely. And even, from Milk and Honey, I went on to do PR for another, at the time, little known web series called Giants, that ultimately ended up becoming a giant. It did 2 seasons, was nominated for a few Emmys, won 2, but it was like doing the PR and like seeing the creatives behind those things, people that look like me, that they made it feel so tangible. And I
Yeah.
learned so much watching them do it. And I was just so inspired about how they, carried themselves, how they, ran their ship, how they treated the content. And it was really like those opportunities that were kind of like the catalyst of me being able to, even have the nerve to create À La Carte and feel like I can do it, because it was so close and I saw it literally before me.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And it's somebody that's really just utilizing their resources and maximizing their opportunities in that, because that's a very, very interesting lens to look, because you kind of are on the, I guess with PR, I mean, it's a level of creativity as well, clearly, but
Yeah.
you're on the corporate side. So you know how to move, you know how to, like, again, we were talking about those relationships and cultivating things. But now we're talking about now pitching your own show. And it's so interesting. I have to bring up Rob again. Again, he's one of my dearest friends. He actually auditioned for À La Carte.
Really?
Yes, he did. For the role of it was Zaya. I'm trying to say it. I'm not trying to say it with accent.
Oh, Z. We just
Z, yeah, Z.
yeah,
I'm trying
yeah.
not to say it with accent. Yeah, but he auditioned for that role. Rob Smith. We got to remember.
I gotta go back and look. I saw so many takes. And
No,
I
go.
really do. I that made me, like, the casting process, and made me have a new level of respect for actors and actresses. Like, you really have to put your, like, self on the line and open yourself up for constant rejection and judgment.
Yeah, it's true.
Unfortunately, like, we just watch so many tapes, and you can imagine it's the end of the night, it's 2 a.m. I've seen so many faces, and then it becomes like the smallest things that you start to, like, just use to
To kind of
kind
maybe
of,
process of elimination kind of thing.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
exactly.
true.
So it
It's
just
true.
made me, like, have so much more respect for actors and actresses, and know that I could never do it, because you really just
So
say,
you're not even gonna walk on your own show.
I mean, I might do a little background. I'm here in the corner eating a sandwich, but in terms of just like that, just like opening yourself up to be judged constantly is huge and heavy work.
Mm-hmm. So I want to talk about. Well, let's start with, how did Meagan Good get involved in your project? How did she get eyes on it?
So before it even, like, got to All Black, we shot and independently produced a original pilot of the show.
Mm.
So put together, like, a whole team of people that I know, a lot of people that I went to school with and had worked with before, and just, like, we shot a pilot. And so Dijon, who directed this iteration of À La Carte, also directed the pilot.
Mm-hmm.
And, Dijon is Meagan's cousin. So she, of
Mm.
course, was, like, just keeping a watchful eye on how things were moving, how the production was going. I think she came to set one time after we were done with the pilot. My PR brain kicked into heavy gear, and I threw, like, a whole screening with a carpet and, like, a Q&A afterwards and all that stuff. And Meagan actually moderated the Q&A. So she was kind of just, fly on the wall at first, just,
Mm-hmm.
like, seeing what was going on, how everything was coming together. And then from then, she ended up like reading, because I had written all 6 scripts at first, even before I shot the first pilot.
Mhm.
So she read the scripts that I wrote, the deck that I put together, and like, the real reason behind the story and the message and all that stuff. And, she just kind of decided to get on board, decided that it aligned with the kind of story that she wanted to tell, the kind of representation that she wanted to see behind and in front of the cameras.
Mhm.
So definitely kismet in that way.
Absolutely. So when she was reading over your scripts, did she offer any creative input when you're talking about her wanting to?
Not at that point. I think it was
Okay.
just kind of like just seeing where the story was going to go, and like where the journey was going to, the overall like arc of the story, and seeing
Mhm.
if it was even something that like, aligned with her brand.
Mhm.
Um, but in terms of like creative input, that was more so when we got into casting and just like more
Right. Yeah.
top line things,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and just making sure that like, it was feeling authentic, and didn't dabble too heavy into, pitting Black women aggressively against each other, or things
Right.
like those like important things, those important messages that we do or don't want to send,
Mhm.
especially to younger girls that are going to be watching it.
Mhm. I like Meagan. She's very kind. I've interviewed her before. Yeah.
She's
She's
very
she's
sweet.
she's a very kind woman, and I do like what you said. Her approach was not to take. I mean, some people will see a good idea and take over and stamp their name on everything and make it seem like it's their own. But just from what you said, she just wanted to make sure that you all sort of understood what you were getting yourselves into. Then she
Yeah,
offered something that, yeah, that could be valuable to
yeah,
you, as opposed to trying to overrun, what's already happening. So that speaks a lot to her character as well. I definitely
yeah,
think
and
so.
especially her being a veteran in the game, and like having
Yep.
done this for, so long, so she kind of knows things to watch
Hmm.
out for, things to avoid, or things that usually do well. So
Hmm. Hmm. I mean, you're a veteran in your own right too. It's a different channel, but it certainly informs how you're able to move, and it gives you some leverage, and just you're a step up in terms of some people that are kind of starting from a different place. So I want to talk about a different aspects of the show. So I know that we're talking about the show, like Mahogany is kind of the sort of the central character,
mhm.
but what I really like about what you wrote and fleshed out is that they're really, everybody has complete personalities. We know every single character, and he made sure that you established a profile for every person. So there's always going to be, like, everybody's favorite character could be a completely different person, right? And
Definitely.
everybody's not necessarily perfect. But I was joking with the cast. I was like, everybody's kind of got their own thing going on, and everybody's, some people have done wild things, some people have done more conservative things. But it just seemed like when Mahogany did something that was totally jumped out the window, everybody was like, whoa, okay, we know we crazy over here, but you don't get to do that. I thought that was hilarious. That cracked me up. Talk about that.
That part I actually like drew a lot from, my own personal experiences. Of
Hmm.
course, it was exaggerated for entertainment, but
Hmm.
I do remember, because I think we just get, especially within friend groups, like I think
Yeah.
each friend gets set in a certain role. Like you're the responsible one, or you're
Yeah.
the wild one, or you're kind of like the conservative one. I think we just kind of get used to our friends playing certain roles within the group. And so that when anyone steps outside of that role, it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. What's happening here? What's
This
going on?
ain't true.
Exactly. We don't like it. As humans, we just don't like change. So I think any inkling of like a friend stepping out of their role in the group is like, what are you doing, sis?
That was so funny to me. And I also want to talk about, I mean, for this to be I mean, it's your project, but it's a really big project. You wrote this project, and you suddenly get this huge distribution deal with All Black, and you've got these people on the show, like prominent personalities. How does that feel to be able to cast like a Candy Burris? I mean, these are people that have been on television for a very long time, and they are, happy and proud to be part of your project. How does that feel?
I mean, it's definitely like, and I think sometimes it doesn't even always set in for me.
Yeah.
Even when I was even when we were casting and seeing some of the like casting tapes and some of the other people that even audition, and it's being like,
Yeah.
whoa, this person is auditioning for my show. That's
That's awesome.
crazy.
Yeah.
But it is very like, it's a very humbling feeling, and it's
Hmm.
also just like it's a confidence booster because, it's my very first piece of screenwriting.
Yeah.
But I did put so much care and attention into it. I wrote it and rewrote it so many times. I like had other people read it and got feedback and just like, and I'm a naturally like harsh stickler for great content.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Hmm.
and I wouldn't do anything, or turn in any kind of work that I wouldn't have the same judgment on someone else's work. I'm probably my own biggest critic because I
Hmm.
do like really love content, but more specifically quality content. And I think as people of color, we deserve that. We deserve for the stories to be reflective of who we are and show that we're not a monolith, to show that we're multidimensional. But beyond that, we also deserve for it to be good. So it should be on par with like, the mainstream counterpart. So with having all that in my brain, I really did like put all that effort into making sure I did the best I could to create the best content. And so to have such big names interested in being involved and being a part of the project, it was definitely reassuring and kind of letting me know that I'm doing something right and that
Hmm.
that work did pay off and that it didn't go unnoticed and that it's like coming across the way that I intended it.
That no, that it really does. And I wanted a couple of things. One thing, you have what I really appreciate about your casting as well is you're giving people opportunities that didn't necessarily go the traditional actor route, and I think that's really important. It's very difficult nowadays. A lot of people have to turn to their social media, they become personalities, then they transition into acting. But they may have wanted to be acting all along. A lot of actors tend to sort of clash with that idea because they
Yeah.
feel like if those people didn't go the traditional route, then maybe there's something that lacks in terms of their training. But I don't agree with that because the path there is just different for everybody.
Oh, definitely not.
Yeah.
And I think it might even be a generational thing, honestly,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
even
Sure.
with me becoming a writer, like there's a typical path to become a
Hmm.
writer. And like, most people say I skip multiple steps, jumping straight to the created by, which, a lot of people take years to get that, or some people never do. And it's not lost on me that that's a huge accomplishment. But I think, when you're thinking about the typical paths for any industry, they want you
Hmm.
to do it this way and start here. And like, so I definitely understood that, on a personal level with me even trying to make the transition to being a writer without, going to schools per se for writing, me being a
Right.
self-taught screenwriter, me not starting as a PA or a writer's assistant or like any of that stuff that like those are the typical routes that people take. So of course, for me, basically switching career paths is going to be a lot harder for me,
Yeah.
when I'm talking to other more senior level writers having that same resistance. So I definitely, exactly what you said,
Hmm.
understand that like, with the industry now, there's so many different ways to get to a certain place. And that
Yeah.
doesn't disqualify your talent or your ability or your drive or any of that. And I think, we are coming up in the age of like YouTube University, so many
Yeah.
things that we can teach ourselves. And with the way that the gas prices and inflation and like student loans is going, like I think it's going to be a lot more of that. People kind of just taking different routes and saying, "Do I really need to go into $100,000 worth of debt for school when I could,
Right.
learn it on the streets or learn it from YouTube or whatever?" So I've definitely, and I think I'm most excited for the cast for them to get this opportunity. They're so great. They're so dope. Each and every one of them are so like talented and have just been so gracious. And I'm so excited to see all the love they're getting and excited to
Yes.
for them to revel in this moment. So beyond just, it being my accomplishment, I really do feel like it's all of our accomplishment. I'm very happy for the cast.
I'm so happy for them, Brie, and I'm so happy for you. But I think one of the most important things that you pointed out, like just the first thing that you did, is you created a project. You created your own series, and you wanted to tell this story. I think that a lot of people don't realize that, especially like you said, with YouTube University and the here and now where we are. If you want something to happen, you can absolutely do it yourself, and at a fraction of the cost. I mean, people are making feature length films on iPhones. Those
Yeah.
can shoot in 4K too. So just depending on your skill set and what you're able to accomplish and how creative a person can be, there are many, many, many things that a person can do before they get into like just loads and loads of debt. But you
Yeah.
have to be ambitious, and like you said, you've got to pull back and get into your resources. You've got all these friends that you're able to, colleagues, co-workers, somebody you went to school with, childhood friends, all these people. When you establish those kind of ties, then everybody can get a piece of the pie. So that's a really wonderful, you know.
Definitely. And
Mhm,
that goes back to the relationship building.
exactly. For sure. I want to point out another really, really amazing thing that you do with this series. And I was talking to my boo, my love, Kendall,
Yeah.
about this. He's one of my favorites. I love talking to him. He's so genuine and sweet.
He
But I
really is.
love how, you were able to create a character that was queer, but you did not center it around his identity as if being queer was his identity. You made him a whole person. And I thought that was really wonderful because a lot of times we try to, you'll watch stuff and they'll try to create some sort of just exaggerated storyline around someone's sexual identity. And it's not even that. He's a whole person. He loves, he dates, he's a loving father. He's in a situation where it's a little bit of a jump from what he's used to, but you've
Yeah.
just created this complete character. And I thought that spoke a lot to how important it was for you to make sure that people were being represented and not necessarily being sort of gawked at.
Oh, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Just with the series in general, but especially every single character, they're mostly based off of people that either myself or people that are really, really close to me.
Oh,
So,
that's cool.
when I sat down to create Kendall's character, it was based on someone who's really close to me, who I just wanted to be accurately represented, who,
Mm-hmm.
like, since I was a child, has always like been such a huge part of my life. So I wanted to make sure that he, felt seen, felt
Mm-hmm.
heard, felt represented in the way that I saw him. Like, I never like, made that a thing or his thing.
Mm-hmm.
He was a person at the end, is a person at the end of the
Right.
day, with flaws and all that stuff. So I definitely, and that's something that I, being a heavy consumer of content, you can always spot the difference between like a genuine, authentic character and then, them placeholders and like
Yeah.
putting certain characters in things just to say that they have them
Yeah.
or fill that quota and not having fully fleshed the character out. So that's one thing I want to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that I did because, like I said, how not only how we see ourselves on TV, it affects so much of how we move in life and what we think we're capable of, but also how others see us, especially,
Mm-hmm.
when you're thinking about cultures and countries and continents that don't regularly interact with Black people. And so all they
Mm.
have to go on is what they see on TV. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't even realize that until I studied abroad my junior year. I studied abroad in Rome.
Mm.
I traveled a lot. And I just remember, like, even when I went to China a couple years ago, I just remember the genuine curiosity in the looks because they're not used to seeing us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when I think about it, I'm like, okay, so you're getting your information on us based on the media and what you see. So it's
Mm.
our job to make sure that's as diverse and multifaceted, authentic as possible because it informs a lot of things, not only how we
Mm-hmm.
see ourselves, but how other people see us.
Absolutely. That's a great point. And I want to talk about, I mean, you're still very much so a working PR professional. So you have this day job life, which you're intensely into. Like I said, you're a consumer of content and you're a writer and you are working on a TV show. How in the world do you maintain a balance? Because that's a lot for anybody. But my goodness, I mean, on a level where it's like everything is happening at once. What, I
Oh
mean,
yeah. I'm also
how?
like I'm also getting married in 5.5 weeks.
Oh my goodness! Congratulations! And you organized that too, or did you get a wedding
So
planner?
planning, so throw in planning a wedding on top of all of that, and
Oh
that's
my
what's happening.
god!
Um, thank you. And that's something. It's something that I'm actively working on. It's such a work in progress. It's an everyday thing. Just learning how to find balance. All three of those things individually are like full-time jobs and a half.
Yes.
So really trying to like work on time management and really being intentional about what I'm doing and focusing on things. Setting time and space, and also sometimes just putting the computer down and saying I need to rest my eyes and take a break because
Yeah.
my brain will start to shut down or
Yeah.
sleep deprivation is like the equivalent of being drunk. It's a form of torture.
No, it's true.
So I know like I'm no good once I after so long, even though we want to, and especially in this age, we come up in this age of team no sleep and sleep with your dad and all that stuff. When actually that is quite
It
counterproductive.
doesn't serve you. Yeah, yeah. You're not your
Not at
best.
all. That's
Hmm.
how we get sick
Hmm.
faster and for longer and like all that stuff. That's how mistakes get made and
Hmm.
oversights. And so, but that's something that I've had to really like force myself to do because I come up from, especially going to a HBCU, like, having to work twice as hard to have half
Yep.
of what they have and that whole thing. So
Yeah.
I'm like ingrained to be working, working, working. I've had to literally, my fiance has been a huge part in helping me have a work-life balance. He's a lot more balanced than I am. And so
Hmm.
he's been kind of like, okay, you haven't been in like a couple hours. I think it's time. So it's definitely and it runs in my family. I come from a long line of busybodies. My mom, my great grandmother is like busybodies till the end.
Hmm.
So it's like such an ingrained part of me. I'm learning every day to have more balance.
No, I get it. I've been working since I was like 14 years old, and I was even like selling candy in school out the lockers. Like I just always had a hustle. Like something was
Yeah.
always going on. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I understand that, but it's funny you say that because one thing I learned is that I started to notice like I was still sending emails like 2, 3 a.m. When I was like deep in like corporate America, and I'm like,
Mhm.
why am I doing this? People will even like they just shut down like after like 5, 6 o'clock on the end of day. You don't
Mhm.
hear from them after in the weekend at all. And I'm just
Yep.
constantly addressing things. And then what happens is you start taking on other people's workload. And
Yep.
it just becomes something where you're starting to you don't even realize it, but you're contributing to your own stress. So I
Yeah.
do agree with that. So that's a great life lesson and takeaway that you've got there. And I'm learning to incorporate that too. Hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Because then you also start to set a standard and expectation that you are
Yes.
always up. So,
They'll call
God
you.
forbid one night you don't answer email at 2 a.m. They're
Yeah.
like, what's going on? We're really like, no, that's not the norm. But I've had to do that myself. I've had to like check my own like habits and dangerous standards. Like you said,
Yeah.
like I was sending emails or responding to things way outside of work hours.
Yeah.
And it became like a habit and people started to have the expectations. I legit had to force myself sometimes not to respond to an email, not because I couldn't do it or wasn't busy, but because I don't even want to set that precedent.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, listen, I am not a first responder. So
Exactly.
I'm not on those front lines.
At the
So
end of the day, no one is going to die if I don't
right. If I don't
email.
answer an email, you know what I'm saying? So yeah,
Exactly.
that's a little bit different. What would you like ultimately for all of us to take away from this project? Like I said, I've seen it, so I'm very familiar, but what would you like them to see or to know?
Yeah, so I mean, I created it for, the black girl that's kind of fed up with the dating scene, is kind
Hmm.
of questioning herself, her worth, her confidence, questioning her standards, considering abandoning them, considering lowering them, like
Hmm.
all of that stuff from personal experience. At the end of the day, it doesn't usually go well. It gets worse before it gets better. So if I can save anyone
Anybody?
some time, some tears, some like, just some bad choices, some bad decisions, then that's what I want people to take away from. I I want us to know that it's okay to wait on ourselves, that
Mm-hmm.
we deserve better. It may seem like, people with looser standards or morals are getting farther ahead and,
Hmm.
which gets into our own heads, but at the end of the day, it's not worth it. We absolutely deserve to wait on ourselves.
Yeah, just be who
And
you are. Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. And know your worth and don't
Yeah.
accept less than what you deserve. Don't
Hmm.
accept second place because
Yeah.
that's not what you deserve. And even, for men to who have daughters and sisters and moms, I want them to watch this and say, like, I never want my mom or sister or daughter or whatever to cry herself to sleep at night. So let me do better
Mm.
and treat women better and not be the source of some black girls'
Hurt.
tears.
Yeah, and tear. No, that's great. And I was saying, to the cast, I said, I think what's great about this show is that it's a nice group watch, and it's not just for women, right? Everybody can get together,
Mhm.
and it's gonna be some times where we're gonna all butt heads, but it's one of
Yeah.
those things where we can, like, it'd be fun arguing about, the way certain things went down. So
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
I definitely think it's a great show to watch amongst friends. But you're right. I mean, it's a great lesson, and just being who you are, because as you can see, somebody over here about to get married. You find the right one, you find the right one, right? She's
Exactly.
like, you know what I'm saying?
Sometimes you just need a mirror to held up to yourself and be like, this isn't the path, sis. Turn the other way, turn left.
And I mean, unless it's something just crazy, I just don't believe. I believe no one is beyond redemption, right? So
Oh
we can
yeah.
make mistakes, as long as you ain't out here like chopping people up. We can,
Right,
make
right.
mistakes.
Wow. But
And
yeah, exactly. And those are the things that kind of like shape us and make us. I will say, like, I wouldn't have appreciated even maybe being able to recognize my relationship if I hadn't been through the previous situations and like just been in a situation I shouldn't have been in. That all
right.
made, my fiance that much more like, oh, this is.
Isn't that interesting? Because sometimes people carry baggage in a negative way where you might not, like, let's say you have somebody like your fiance who's just super perfect for you, and you might not have been ready to receive the blessing of that because of the pain. But sometimes you become so evolved from the pain that it's the right time and the right moment, and you really do find the one. So I don't know if I'm trying to get married though. Like, that's not really my style.
I feel you. And
I've been in weddings.
I mean, you gotta go with what's you, because at the end of the day, marriage is a business decision.
Yes.
It's a merger.
Yes.
A merger with assets and ties and all that stuff. So it has to be the right fit. It has to be for you, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
Yeah, if I were to address my own dysfunction, I think the idea of marriage for me, it's like you're sort of relinquishing a kind of control that I'm not used to. Like, I'm not used to partnering with somebody on that level. Like the idea of even like a joint account, like it makes me like I'm like about to get into like an asthma attack. I got allergies.
Like, what?
What is going on? You mean people be like, you gotta take my last name. Like, hold on now. You know what I'm saying?
I 100% feel you. And we had like intense discussions about that early on too, about the last name situation, and like, whether is it just we're falling into tradition, or what is it? So I definitely feel that, because at the end of the day, you are kind of giving up a piece of your identity. And like, like I said, it's a business thing. So you're essentially tying your life to someone, and like, their trouble is your trouble, their debt is your debt, all that kind of stuff. So you have to like reconcile mentally that idea and go from there. But it doesn't happen overnight.
Oh my God, that's so hilarious. But before you go, I do want to ask you one question. I know this has to be something that's curious to people, because you said you were a self-taught screenwriter.
Yeah.
When you started getting into writing the scripts, when you say self-taught, was it something where you kind of just like were just looking on YouTube? Were you reading books? Were you reading other scripts and just understanding the format? Like, how did you get to that and to get to here?
All of that. So
Yeah.
I've actually always loved writing, and I was a natural writer. So I used to write for my school paper. I used to write poetry, and I like stories. I love stories. So I read a lot. So I could naturally write, and I know how to tell a story.
Yeah.
But to your point, like writing for a screen is a very specific
format.
So I did all of that. I printed out maybe 20 pilots of my favorite shows.
I see.
And I'm a visual learner. So like once I literally see what a script is supposed to look like, what it's supposed to sound like, I can basically mimic that. And if I was coming up on things like specific thing, like what's a pre-lap, or what's the difference between a cut to and a smash to, like those granular things, I would just Google it. Like Google is a friend. And so anything in between, I would just Google. And even now, even to this day, I'm still reading. I have like a stack of screenwriter books in my office back there that I'm actively reading, trying to learn how to become a better and better, more complex writer. So I did all of that. And that's what I tell people all the time, because I've had a lot of people kind of come to me and ask me to read their scripts and give feedback. And the first thing I ask is like, hey, do you want to be a writer, or do you just write something that you made? Because that's going to dictate my feedback for you. Because some people are like, oh, I have an idea, I just wanted to get it out on paper. And some people are like, oh, I want to be a writer, which two different things. But for me, especially the kind of writer that I wanted to be, which is excellent, do the work and read and learn. It's a skill, it's a learning thing. So I'm constantly reading and growing. Even recently, when I looked back at my very first a la carte scripts, I'm like, create.
It was
Yeah, because I've just grown so much as a writer. So even
yeah,
looking at the first drafts, I'm like, ugh, who wrote
yeah.
this? But yeah, Google their books, like the resources are out there. You can
Hmm.
find almost any script in a PDF format
Hmm.
and just yeah, like do the work.
No, that's good to know. I think people should know that, this type of thing, it's not like you just up in one day decide I just want to write. Now look at the type of work that you put in. That's not something that people would necessarily know offhand, but it's good to know that she works very hard. And as you can see, this is what happens when you work hard.
Oh
And
yeah.
you put in, you put just your resource together and you make something happen for yourself. Do you have any other projects that you're working on right now, besides A La Carte, that we should know about? Or do you have any ideas that you may not necessarily want to get into, but
Oh, all of that. I
yeah.
have 2 other shows in development right now.
Oh,
Actually,
that's
just
amazing.
before this meeting, I was going over some script notes with my fiance.
Mhm.
I have like another script on my mantle that I have to read that like I was talking to a production company about potentially show running. I have like an idea for well, I think it's a short film. I've been told
Mhm.
it's a feature, but that just sounds very intimidating. That's been percolating in my head for like 2 years that I
Uh-huh.
need to, pin. So I have lots of stuff like on the horizon, coming up, in the works, like all of that. The train is moving.
Well, I love your story, and I think it's very encouraging because I think a lot of times, we'll enjoy, maybe we'll enjoy our job, and it's what professionally we decided to do. But then when you go beyond a job, a lot of times people have hobbies, and those hobbies actually speak deeper to what their true interests are. And in this sense, you were able to realize something that you'd always wanted to do, and now you're working a job that you like, and you're
Mhm.
also living out your dreams at the same time. And so to be able to do that and just fully realize those two dreams, it's amazing to watch somebody. And again, I like you, Bree, you know that. So I was just excited to see this happen for you. I think it's so great.
Yes, absolutely. And if anything, if COVID has taught us anything, is that life is so short and
Yes.
we work so much. We spend so much of our times and lives being working. I think it's so important to love it. Like,
Hmm.
really, you can't just like it. You have to
You have to
love it.
love it. Yeah.
That's what's going to get you through
Hmm.
all that it entails.
For sure. Once again, my name is Koku with blackfilm.com, and I'm here with Breanna Hogan. She's the creator of A La Carte, which is streaming on All Black TV today. It is streaming today. I want you guys to go ahead and make sure that you're subscribed to All Black. They've got a lot of good shows, but A La Carte is prominently featured because it is one of their hit shows on the network, and it's a really really fun watch. And they've
Yeah,
got some of my favorite people on there. Again, you tell Kendall that I said
I will.
hey. Thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed talking to you.
I, you too. Thank you so much for doing this. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. I'm so
No, I,
excited.
no, I appreciate you a lot. And I'm gonna go ahead and put this up today for you too. How about that?
Wow. Okay. Yes. Love it.
I'm working like Brie now.
Exactly.
I got you, girl. Take care,
Mm.
okay?
Okay. I'll talk to you later.
Take care. If you want to see more content like this on blackfilm.com, make sure you like, subscribe, and ring that bell.